The glass slipped from Chief Adebayo Olamide's fingers, shattering on the marble floor of his Victoria Island penthouse. 3 months, he whispered, staring at Dr. Chioma Nwosu. You're saying I have 3 months to live? Without a bone marrow transplant, yes. The doctor's voice was steady, but her eyes held sympathy. Chief, I've tested your wife and all 3 of your children. None of them are a match. Chief Adebayo's legs gave out. He sank into his leather chair, the one that cost more than most Nigerians earned in a year, and felt his empire of wealth and power crumble around him. 55 years old. Billions in the bank. And none of it could save him now. There must be someone else, he said desperately. My brother's cousins. We've tested everyone in your immediate family. Dr. Nwosu paused, then leaned forward. Chief, I need to ask you something. Do you have any other children? Any from before your current marriage? The question struck him like a thunderbolt. 20 years ago, a small flat in Yaba, a wife named Folklore who sold fabrics at Balaga Market, and a baby daughter with eyes just like his. He had divorced them, erased them from his life, climbed over their broken hearts to reach his throne of money and status. Chief, Dr. Nwosu pressed, do you have another child? His voice came out barely above a whisper. Yes, a daughter. I abandoned her 12 years ago. Then we need to find her, Dr. Nwosu said quietly. She might be your only chance to survive. Chief Adebayo closed his eyes, and for the first time in 20 years, he thought about the family he had thrown away. The universe, it seemed, had a cruel sense of irony. The daughter he had abandoned might be the only one who could save him. But the real question was, would she? Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Drop your thoughts and reactions in the comments. What would you have done if this happened to you? Let's dive in. 3 days earlier, Chief Adebayo Olamide stood on the balcony of his penthouse in Victoria Island, watching the Lagos skyline shimmer under the setting sun. At 55, he was one of Nigeria's wealthiest men, his oil empire spanning 3 African countries. His fleet of luxury cars filled 2 garages, his mansions dotted the continent, and his name commanded respect in every boardroom from Lagos to London. But tonight, something was wrong. The champagne glass trembled in his hand as another wave of weakness washed over him. For 3 months, he had ignored the fatigue, the strange bruising, the bleeding gums. Men like him didn't get sick. They conquered. They dominated. They won. Chief, Dr. Nwosu is here, his assistant announced from the doorway. Dr. Chioma Nwosu entered with a manila folder, her expression grave. She had been the Olamide family physician for 5 years, trusted completely. But the look on her face made Chief Adebayo's heart pound. Sit down, Chief, she said quietly. Just tell me. You have acute myeloid leukemia. Advanced stage. Without treatment, you have perhaps 3 months. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. There must be treatment. I'll fly to America, Germany, anywhere. You need a bone marrow transplant. Immediately. Dr. Nwosu pulled out papers. I've already tested your wife and children. None of them are a match. Chief Adebayo's mind raced. His second wife, Stella, and their 3 children had been tested within days of his diagnosis. Test everyone in my family. My brother's cousins. We have, Chief. No matches. Dr. Nwosu hesitated, then spoke carefully. Chief, I need to ask you something personal. Do you have any other children? Any from before your current marriage? The question hit him like a thunderclap. The room seemed to tilt. 20 years ago, he had been a struggling businessman with a wife named Folklore and a baby daughter. They lived in a small flat in Yaba, barely making ends meet. Then his big break came, a deal that would make him millions. But his partners wanted someone sophisticated modern, not tied to a village woman who sold fabrics at Balaga Market. So he had made a choice. He divorced Folklore, sent her back to her village with nothing, and married Stella, the educated daughter of a senator. He never looked back, never sent money, never even learned of his daughter what was her name. Amara ever asked about him. Chief. Dr. Nwosu pressed. There was a daughter. Long ago. His voice was barely a whisper. We need to find her. She might be your only chance. That night, Chief Adebayo sat in his study, surrounded by everything he had built. His awards lined the walls. His safes held millions. But for the first time in 2 decades, he thought about what he had thrown away. His private investigator called at midnight. I found them, Chief. Your ex-wife Folklore and your daughter Amara. They're in a village in Ogun State. A pause. Chief, you should know, Folklore is dying. Kidney failure. And the girl, she's been caring for her mother alone. Chief Adebayo closed his eyes. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony. The next morning, a convoy of black SUVs rolled through the dusty roads of Ogun State, heading toward a village that time had forgotten, carrying a desperate billionaire to meet the daughter who might be his salvation, or his judgment. Amara woke before dawn, as she did every morning, to the sound of her mother's labored breathing. Their small room in the compound house had a single window, through which the first light of day crept across the concrete floor. At 12 years old, Amara had learned to move silently to preserve her mother's fragile sleep for as long as possible. She fetched water from a communal well, balancing the bucket on her head as she walked back. Other children her age were still sleeping, would wake to breakfast prepared by their mothers, would walk to school with new notebooks and full bellies. Amara had stopped going to school 8 months ago when Mama's illness worsened. Amara. Her mother's voice was weak from the other room. I'm here, Mama. She helped Folklore sit up, supporting her mother's swollen body. The kidney disease had ravaged her once beautiful face, leaving it puffy and gray. You should be in school, my daughter. School will always be there, Mama. You won't. Amara forced brightness into her voice, though her heart ached. She knew what the village doctor had said last week. Without dialysis, her mother had perhaps a month left. And dialysis cost money they would never have. Folklore reached out with trembling fingers to touch her daughter's face. You look so much like him. Don't, Mama. Amara pulled away. They had this conversation too often. He wasn't always cruel, Amara. When I met him, Adebayo was kind, ambitious. We were young and in love. Folklare's eyes grew distant. Then the money came, and I wasn't good enough anymore. Not educated enough, not sophisticated enough. He needed a wife who could stand beside him in his new world. He abandoned us. He did. Folklore coughed, her whole body shaking. But he's still your father. Amara said nothing. She had learned long ago not to waste energy hating a man who didn't know she existed. Instead, she focused on surviving each day, selling roasted plantains by the roadside, washing clothes for neighbors, doing whatever small jobs she could find to buy her mother's medications. She was preparing their meager breakfast when she heard the sound. At first, she thought it was thunder, but then she realized engines. Expensive ones. Multiple vehicles. The entire compound emptied into the yard as 3 gleaming black SUVs pulled up, completely out of place among the mud brick houses and rust-stained zinc roofs. Amara's heart hammered. Only 2 kinds of people arrived in cars like that, government officials coming to demolish homes or something worse. The door of the lead vehicle opened. A man stepped out, and even before her mind recognized him, something deep in Amara's blood knew. He was tall, though illness had stooped his shoulders. His clothes probably cost more than their entire compound. And his face, it was her face, 20 years older male, but unmistakably where her features came from. Chief Adebayo Olamide stood before the daughter he had abandoned, and for a long moment, neither of them moved. Folklore appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. When she saw him, she made a sound, half gasp, half sob. Adebayo. Folklore. His voice cracked. I didn't know you were sick. Why would you? You never asked. Despite everything, there was no bitterness in her voice, only exhaustion. Chief Adebayo's eyes moved to Amara. Is this your daughter? Amara. Folklore coughed again, blood speckling her lips. The child you left behind. The neighbors whispered, understanding dawning. The little girl they had watched grow up in poverty had a father. A rich father who had never come. I need to speak with you, Chief Adebayo said, his voice formal, as if addressing a business associate. It's urgent. Amara found her voice cold and hard. We don't need anything from you. Amara, her mother started. No, Mama. He left us to suffer, while he lived like a king. Now he comes? Why? What could he possibly want from us now? Chief Adebayo's face tightened. He wasn't used to being spoken to this way, especially by a child. But something in his daughter's eyes, proud, fierce, unbroken despite everything, made him pause. She was stronger than he had ever been. Dr. Nwosu stepped forward from the second vehicle. Please, this is a medical matter. May we come inside? What could they say? He was still her father, no matter how much Amara wished otherwise. Inside the cramped room that served as their entire home, Chief Adebayo looked around at the cracked walls, the thin mattress on the floor, the single pot for cooking. This was where his daughter had grown up. This was what his abandonment had meant. Dr. Nwosu explained everything with clinical precision. The leukemia, the urgent need for a bone marrow transplant, the failed tests of his other children, and finally, the reason they were here. "We need to test you, Amara," Dr. Nwosu said gently. "There's a chance you might be a match." Amara stared at them in disbelief. "You want my bone marrow?" "It's a simple procedure," Dr. Nwosu began, "to save his life." Amara's laugh was sharp, bitter. "He comes here after 12 years of nothing, because he's dying, and I might be able to save him." "Amara, please," Chief Adebayo said, his voice strained. "I know I have no right." "You have no right," Amara agreed, her voice rising. "You have no right to come here to look at us living like this while you have mansions and cars, and ask me to give you anything. Not even my blood." "I'll pay," Chief Adebayo said desperately. "Whatever you need. Your mother's treatment, your school fees, a new house. Now you'll pay." Amara's eyes blazed. Where was this money when Mama was begging for help? When I had to drop out of school? When we went hungry so she could afford her medication? Folklore reached for her daughter's hand. "Amara, listen." "No, Mama. Why should I?" Tears streamed down Amara's face. "He threw us away like garbage. We meant nothing to him. Why should his life mean anything to me?" The room fell silent except for Amara's ragged breathing. Chief Adebayo sat heavily in the only chair, suddenly looking every one of his 55 years. "You're right," he said quietly. "You're absolutely right. I was a coward. I chose money and status over my family. I told myself it was business, that I'd send money later, that you'd be fine." He looked up at his daughter, and for the first time, his eyes were wet. "I was wrong. There's no excuse. I destroyed your lives to build mine." "Then why should I save you?" Amara whispered. "You shouldn't." Chief Adebayo's voice was steady now. "If you walk away, if you refuse, I deserve it. I'm asking anyway, not because I deserve mercy, but because I'm a father begging his daughter for a chance to live. Even a father as terrible as me." Dr. Nwosu opened her medical bag. "Amara, before you decide anything, let me at least test you. Know if you're a match. Then you can make your choice." Amara looked at her mother, searching for guidance. Folklare's face was wet with tears. "It's your decision, my daughter. Whatever you choose, I support you. What would you do, Mama?" Folklore was quiet for a long moment. "I've spent 12 years teaching you to be strong, to be proud, to never let anyone break you. But I also try to teach you that we don't become like those who hurt us. That mercy isn't weakness, it's the hardest form of strength. So you want me to save him? I want you to make the choice you can live with. In a month, maybe less, I'll be gone. You'll have to live with what you decide today for the rest of your life. Make sure it's a decision you can carry." Amara turned back to Dr. Nwosu and held out her arm. "Test me." The blood draw was quick. Dr. Nwosu had brought a portable testing kit. "We'll know in a few hours," she said. Those hours stretched like years. Chief Adebayo's staff set up a canopy in the compound yard, brought chairs, food, water. The neighbors gathered at a respectful distance, watching the drama unfold. In all their years in the village, nothing like this had ever happened. Chief Adebayo tried to talk to Amara several times, but she turned away each time. Instead, she sat with her mother, holding her hand, both of them silent. When Dr. Nwosu's phone finally rang, everyone froze. She listened, then looked up at Amara with an expression that was both hopeful and sad. "You're a perfect match," she said softly. "The best possible match. You can save his life." Chief Adebayo closed his eyes in relief, then opened them to look at his daughter. "Will you?" Amara stood up, facing the man who had given her life, and then tried to erase her existence. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the compound. In that moment, she held his life in her hands, just as he had once held hers. "I need time to think," she said finally. "I don't have much time," Chief Adebayo said urgently. "Every day matters." "Then you should have thought about that 12 years ago." Amara's voice was ice. "Come back tomorrow. I'll give you my answer then." That night, after Chief Adebayo and his convoy had left, Amara lay beside her sleeping mother, staring at the ceiling. She had the power to save a life. But did she have the obligation? And if she saved him, could she live with herself for helping the man who had caused so much pain? But if she refused, could she live with letting someone die when she had the power to prevent it? The question spun through her mind until dawn, and still, she had no answer. By morning, news of Chief Adebayo's visit had spread through the village, like wildfire. Amara woke to find a small crowd had gathered outside their compound. Everyone had an opinion. "Save him," old Mama Ekin advised, leaning on her walking stick. "Get what you can from the rich man, then let God judge him." "Let him die," said Brother Tund, who had watched Amara struggle for years. "He made his choice. Why should you save him?" "Think of your mother," whispered Sister Grace. "His money could give her the treatment she needs." Amara listened to them all, and said nothing. She helped her mother to the latrine, prepared their breakfast, swept their small room. Normal tasks to anchor herself while her mind churned. "You're still undecided," Folklore observed, watching her daughter's face. "How do you forgive someone like him, Mama? How do you just forget?" "You don't forget. Forgiveness is an amnesia." Folklore patted the mat beside her. "Sit. Let me tell you something I've never told you." Amara sat, and her mother took her hands. "When your father left us, I was broken. Not just because of the poverty, but because I had loved him so much. I spent years hating him, letting that hate eat at me like acid. Then one day, I realized something. My hate was hurting only me. He was living his life, unaffected. But I was dying inside, poisoned by my own bitterness. So you forgave him." "I chose to stop letting him control my life. Forgiveness wasn't about him, it was about freeing myself." Folklore coughed, her body shaking. When she recovered, she continued, "You have a choice to make, but make it for yourself, not because of him. Ask yourself, who do you want to be? Because the person you become today is the person you'll be for the rest of your life." Before Amara could respond, they heard vehicles approaching again. The convoy had returned, but this time it wasn't alone. A second set of vehicles pulled up, an ambulance and 2 other cars. Dr. Nwosu emerged first, but she wasn't alone. A woman stepped out of one of the cars, expensively dressed, with 3 teenagers behind her. Amara knew immediately who they were, Chief Adebayo's legitimate family. The woman, Stella, marched straight to where Chief Adebayo stood. "Is this the girl?" Her voice was sharp, contemptuous. "The bastard child." "Stella, not now," Chief Adebayo began. "Not now. You drag me and our children to this godforsaken village because you need this girl's bone marrow." Stella turned to Amara, her eyes cold. "How much do you want? Name your price. Everyone has a price." Amara felt something harden in her chest. This was Chief Adebayo's world. This was what he had chosen over them. "I don't want your money," Amara said quietly. "Don't be stupid," Stella snapped. "You're living in poverty. Take the money, do the procedure, and go back to your miserable life." "Stella, enough." Chief Adebayo's voice cracked like a whip. "You will not speak to my daughter that way." "Your daughter?" Stella laughed bitterly. "Now she's your daughter? After you pretended she didn't exist for 12 years? After you told me she was a mistake you'd erased?" The words hung in the air like poison. Chief Adebayo's face crumbled. "I never should have said that. I never should have." "But you did." Amara stood up, facing them all. The illegitimate wife. The legitimate wife. The father who had abandoned her. "You did say it. You did abandon us. You made your choice. And now I'm begging you to save my life despite it," Chief Adebayo said. "I won't insult you by pretending I deserve it. But I'm asking anyway." One of the teenagers stepped forward, a boy about 16, tall and well-dressed. "If you're my father's daughter, that makes you my sister," he said quietly. "I didn't know about you until yesterday. But if you can save him, please. He's not perfect, but he's still our father." Amara looked at this boy, her half-brother, who had grown up with everything she'd been denied. But there was genuine fear in his eyes, genuine love for his father. He was innocent in all this. "Why didn't any of you match?" Amara asked suddenly. Dr. Nwosu stepped forward. "The HLA markers needed for transplant compatibility are inherited. Your mother's genetic profile combined with your father's happened to create a perfect match in you. Your half-siblings inherited different combinations. It's just genetic luck." "Or fate," Folklore said softly from the doorway. "Maybe this was always meant to happen." Amara closed her eyes. In her mind, she saw 2 paths. On one, she refused and Chief Adebayo died. She would live knowing she had the power to save a life, and didn't. She would carry that weight forever, even if he deserved his fate. On the other, she agreed, save him, and he lived. A man who had caused her and her mother immense suffering would get a second chance at life. Neither path was easy. Neither path was fair. But then she thought about what her mother had said, "Who do you want to be?" She opened her eyes and looked at Dr. Nwosu. "If I do this, what happens to my mother? You said you'd treat her." "We'll start her dialysis immediately," Dr. Nwosu promised. "And we'll get her on the transplant list. She'll have the best care available." In writing. A legal contract. Chief Adebayo nodded eagerly. "Yes, absolutely. Anything you want. And my school fees. For university, medical school, whatever I want to study. Done. And a house. A real house for Mama, not this room. Done. I'll buy it today." Amara took a breath. "I'll do it. I'll save your life." The relief on Chief Adebayo's face was palpable. He started to move toward her, perhaps to embrace her, but Amara held up a hand. "But understand this," she said, her voice steel. "I'm not doing this because you're my father. I'm not doing this because you've suddenly had a change of heart. I'm doing this because my mother taught me to be better than the people who hurt me. I'm doing this because I can live with saving a life, even yours. But don't mistake mercy for forgiveness. Don't mistake this for reconciliation. You will never be my father in any way that matters." Chief Adebayo's face crumpled, but he nodded. "I understand." "Good." Amara turned to Dr. Nwosu. "When do we start?" The surgery was scheduled for 5 days later at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, giving time for final preparations and for Amara to undergo medical evaluations. Chief Adebayo kept his promises with astonishing speed. By the second day, Folake had been admitted to a private hospital in Lagos and started dialysis. By the third day, papers had been signed for a 4-bedroom house in a good neighborhood. By the fourth day, a trust fund had been established for Amara's education, managed by an independent law firm to ensure Chief Adebayo couldn't control it. Stella and the other children had returned to Victoria Island, but the 16-year-old boy, Amara, learned his name was Kunnel, visited every day. He brought books, told her about school, tried awkwardly to build a bridge to the sister he'd never known existed. "Why do you care?" Amara asked him on the fourth day, when he'd brought her a science textbook. Kunnel sat down, choosing his words carefully. "My father isn't perfect. I've known that for a while. But he's been good to us, to me, my siblings, my mother. We've never wanted for anything. And then yesterday, I realized that while we had everything, you had nothing. That's not fair. That's not right." He looked at her earnestly. "I can't fix what he did. But maybe I can be the brother you should have had all along." Despite herself, Amara felt something soften in her chest. Kunnel wasn't responsible for his father's sins. "Maybe," she said quietly. The night before the surgery, Chief Adebayo came to her hospital room. Visiting hours were over, but no one said no to Chief Adebayo Olamide. He knocked softly, and Amara, who couldn't sleep anyway, told him to enter. He sat in the chair beside her bed, and for a long moment neither spoke. "I've been thinking about what to say to you," he finally began. "I've written speeches, prepared explanations, thought of ways to make you understand. But the truth is simple. I was a coward and a fool. I traded you and your mother for money and status. I told myself it was business, that I'd make it up somehow, that you'd be fine. But I was lying to myself." "Why are you telling me this now?" Amara asked. "Because tomorrow you're going to save my life. And I want you to know that I don't deserve it." Chief Adebayo's voice cracked. "I want you to know that I will spend whatever time you give me trying to be worthy of it." "I'm not doing it for you," Amara repeated. "I know. You're doing it because you're a better person than I ever was." He pulled out an envelope. "These are letters. One for every year I was gone. I wrote them tonight, all the things I should have said, should have been there for. Your first day of school. Your 10th birthday. All of it." He set them on her bedside table. "I can't give you the past. But I can at least acknowledge what I took from you." Amara looked at the envelope, but didn't touch it. "What happens after? After the surgery, after you recover? Do you go back to your life and forget about us again?" "No." Chief Adebayo shook his head firmly. "Your mother is dying, Amara. You know that, don't you? Even with dialysis, even with treatment, kidney failure this advanced." "I know," Amara whispered, feeling tears burn her eyes. "Then you also know that soon you'll be alone. You're 12 years old. You shouldn't be alone." He took a shaky breath. "I'm asking, not as someone who deserves it, but as someone who hopes to earn it, let me be your father. Really be your father. It won't be the same as if I'd been there all along. I can't undo the damage, but I can try to do better going forward. I can't think about this now, Amara said, overwhelmed. I understand. Just know that the offer stands. Whatever you need, whatever you want, I'll do everything in my power to give it to you. Not out of guilt, though there's plenty of that, but because you're my daughter, and I should have been fighting for you all along. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. Amara, thank you. For my life. I'll try to make it worth what you're giving me. The surgery the next morning was a blur. Amara was prepped, sedated, and wheeled into the operating theater. The last thing she remembered was Dr. Nwosu's kind face telling her everything would be fine. When she woke hours later, groggy and sore, her mother was beside her bed, looking exhausted but there. Mama. I'm here, baby. You did it. You were so brave. Folklore stroked her daughter's hair. The transplant was successful. He's in recovery. And you? How are you feeling? Better. The dialysis is helping. But Amara could see the lie in her mother's eyes, could see the way death was slowly claiming her despite the treatments. Over the next week, as Amara recovered from the bone marrow extraction, Chief Adebayo recovered from his transplant in the ICU. Dr. Nwosu was cautiously optimistic. His body was accepting the marrow, the leukemia markers were dropping. Amara's body healed faster. By day 8, she was walking the hospital corridors. On one of these walks, she found herself outside the ICU, looking through the window at Chief Adebayo. He was awake, hooked to various monitors, but alive. Living because of her. Colonel appeared beside her. He asks about you every day. Does he? Yeah. Wants to know how you're feeling, if you need anything. Colonel hesitated. He's changed, you know. I don't mean he's suddenly perfect, but he talks about you differently now. Not with guilt, but with, I don't know, hope? Like he sees a chance to be better. People don't change that easily, Amara said. Maybe not. But maybe almost dying makes you see things differently. Colonel looked at his father through the glass. He told me yesterday that he'd wasted 20 years chasing money and status, and it took a 12-year-old girl to show him what real strength looks like. Despite herself, Amara felt a small crack in her armor. Not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps the first seed of something that might one day become it. 3 weeks after the surgery, both Amara and Chief Adebayo were discharged. Folklare's condition had deteriorated further, and they all knew she had weeks at most. The new house, beautiful, spacious, everything Amara had dreamed of, felt bittersweet knowing her mother would barely get to enjoy it. Chief Adebayo visited every day. He didn't push, didn't demand acknowledgement as a father. Instead, he just showed up. He brought Folklore her favorite foods, sat with her when she couldn't sleep, hired the best nurses to make her comfortable. He read to Amara from books he'd loved as a child, helped her catch up on the schoolwork she'd missed, taught her about the business he'd built. Slowly, cautiously, Amara began to see glimpses of the man her mother had once loved. The man he might have been if he hadn't let ambition corrupt him. The man he was trying to become. One evening, as the sun set through the windows of their new home, Folklore called them both to her bedside. She could barely speak now, her body failing, but her eyes were clear. Adebayo, she whispered, take care of our daughter. Be the father you should have been. I will. I swear it. Amara, Folklore turned to her daughter, tears streaming down her face. You saved his life. You showed mercy when you could have chosen revenge. That's the person I raised you to be. Now I need you to do something even harder. I need you to give him a chance to be your father. Really give him a chance. Mama. Please. Life is too short for hate. I wasted too much time on it. Don't make my mistake. She took both their hands and placed them together. You're all each other has now. Folklore died 3 days later, surrounded by both her first and only love, and the daughter she'd raised against all odds. She went peacefully, knowing Amara would be cared for. Epilogue, 6 years later. Amara Olamide stood at the podium of Lagos University's graduation ceremony, valedictorian of her class, about to deliver her speech. At 18, she had just completed her undergraduate degree in medicine with highest honors. In the audience, Chief Adebayo sat in the front row, his face wet with tears of pride. The past 6 years hadn't been easy. There had been fights, resentments, difficult conversations. Learning to trust the father who had abandoned her took time. But Chief Adebayo had kept his promise. He showed up every day, even when Amara pushed him away. He attended every school event, helped with every homework assignment, taught her about business and life, and the mistakes he'd made. He had also quietly established the Folklore Foundation, dedicating millions to helping single mothers in poverty, ensuring no other child would grow up as Amara had. He said it was the least he could do to honor the woman who had raised the daughter who saved his life. As Amara began her speech, she looked out at the audience, at Kunal and her other half-siblings who had become real family, at Dr. Nwosu who had guided them through it all, and at her father, who had almost died and instead been reborn. 6 years ago, Amara began, I had to make an impossible choice. I held someone's life in my hands, someone who had hurt me deeply. I could have chosen revenge. Many would have understood if I had. But my mother taught me that we become what we choose in our hardest moments. That mercy isn't weakness, it's the hardest form of strength. She saw Chief Adebayo wipe his eyes. Today, I'm graduating as a doctor. I chose medicine because I learned something important. We all get sick. We all suffer. We all die. Rich or poor, good or bad, none of us escapes it. What matters is what we do with the time we have, and whether we're brave enough to grant second chances to others and to ourselves. After the ceremony, Chief Adebayo embraced his daughter. Your mother would be so proud. She is, Amara said, looking up at the sky. And I think I'm proud too, of both of us, for doing the hard work of healing. It wasn't a perfect ending. Some wounds never fully heal. But it was real, and it was honest, and it was enough. Chief Adebayo Olamide had been saved by the daughter he abandoned. But more than that, he had been given the chance to become the father he should have been all along. And Amara had learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose mercy, even when every fiber of your being screams for justice. Because in the end, we're all just people trying to survive, to love, to be better than our worst moments. And sometimes, that's the most anyone can ask for.